Hi, I'm Brian Russell. I'm your instructor for hybrid OT520 Introduction to the Old Testament. This is one of my favorite classes. I'm trained as a biblical scholar with a special concentration in the Old Testament. I wrote my dissertation on chapter 15 of the book of Exodus, and so I have a fair level of expertise on the early books of the Old Testament. I'm also a author who has published several things on the book of Psalms, and so Pentateuch and Psalms are two of my favorite sections of the whole Bible. I'll bring that energy to the class, and my goal is to offer you a love and a passion for the Old Testament or Israel's scriptures, the First Testament. There's different ways to talk about these books, but to see them not just as prelude, but as essential Christian scripture that serves as Act 1 to the Act 2 that we see in the New Testament, because it's in the Old Testament, it's in Israel's scriptures that we see the trajectories begin that lead up to the life, the death, and the resurrection of Jesus, that set the context for that give us categories for understanding what Jesus did, and to give us a sense of what God's mission is from creation through fall, through the calling of Israel as God's new humanity, in anticipation of Jesus the Messiah coming, dying on the cross, being raised from the dead, and then unleashing the church to take the gospel to all corners of the globe in anticipation of God's new creation. Well, that was a mouthful. So what you can see from that, though, is I'm interested in the big narrative, the story that the scriptures tell and invite us to live our lives in light of. And so in this class, what you're going to get is a sense of my energy for the missional message of the Bible. The scriptures tell us the story from creation to new creation of a missional God who wants to make himself known and call all persons to himself to become the people that God created each one of us to be. And God does that by coming into history, calling Israel out of the nations of Genesis 1 to 11 to be the means, the vehicle through which God was going to reveal the truth about who God is in anticipation of the incarnation, the life, the death, and the resurrection of Jesus as good news. So, what are we going to do in this class? Well, we're going to have a chance to read significant portions of the Old Testament. I invite you to open up the syllabus as you watch this video, and we can just talk about it. In particular, let me talk about the books. The textbooks are as follows. We're going to use Bill Arnold. Bill Arnold is a professor of Old Testament up on the Wilmore campus, and we're going to use his Introduction to the Old Testament from Cambridge University Press. We're going to use one of my favorite Old Testament scholars, Christopher Wright's How to Teach and Preach the Old Testament for All It's Worth. You're going to really like that book. It's going to give you tools, and you'll see Wright's missional ideas through that book. Yeah, you're going to look through an atlas. You're going to learn the geography, something of the geography and the placement, and how Israel fits into the wider history of the ancient Near East, and the InterVarsity Press Atlas of Bible History will help to frame that. So you're going to skim through that atlas, learn key places. We're going to have a map quiz in this class, but you'll see from the atlas, it's a historical atlas, so it goes through the different periods, and you can see how Israel fits in, and then ultimately how the New Testament fits in that. So you'll get a picture of the flow of biblical history. John Oswalt was one of my mentors. He still teaches on the Wilmore campus, and he has a great book called The Bible Among the Myths, Unique Revelation or Just Ancient Literature. And this book gets at the heart of a key question. How do you read the Bible among all of the competing stories that exist? That's always been a problem. It's not just a modern problem. And Dr. Oswalt's going to give us some categories and some ways of talking about the Bible so that we can see it, that it's simply wrong to see it as a myth at the same level of all the other myths that come out of the ancient world. And then you have a chance to take a look at my book, Realigning with God, Reading Scripture for Church and World. That book will help to frame out the biblical narrative, organize it along missional lines, and give you some categories to help you in your reading of the Old Testament. Now, the assignments. How's this class going to go? Well, we begin online, and in the weeks up until our intensive, I'll have weekly assignments for you. So you want to make sure that you're logging in every week And you're going to have some videos to watch and also a reading assignment each week up until our intensive. And you'll also report whether or not you watch the videos and the percentage of the reading that you completed for that week. We're not going to read all the books in advance of our time together, but we're going to read substantial portions of them. By the way, all the reading will be due later on in the semester after our intensive. I also will be having optional live sessions using Zoom technology. I'll look just like I'll probably be sitting even in this seat many times when I do that. So I'm going to have some optional times. There'll be sort of live office hours. There'll be plenty of warning. You'll be invited. If you want to, you can come in and ask me questions. We can talk about the reading. We can talk about class assignments, anything that's bothering you. So I'm going to make myself available frequently during live sessions. Obviously, other times you can just send me notes. And I'll be recording those live sessions so that the questions that are asked, the answers are available to the whole class. And also, if you would be unable to attend one of the live sessions, you can send in your questions in advance. Again, those are optional, but that's a way to add value. And you'll have some interaction with me outside of our intensive time. We'll have a map quiz in class. I'll have the maps and even the answers to the maps available in advance, but you will have to do it from memory. That's just simply to give a baseline understanding of the geography. There's a essay exam on the last day of our intensive where you're going to be writing an essay about the theological authority of the Old Testament. So the reading that you'll do up until the intensive, as well as the class materials, will give you resources for writing a good essay. That'll get you an initial grade for the class. And then there will be a final exam that's due later on in the semester. That'll essentially will be a 2-hour exam. It will cover all the reading, so make sure you're taking some basic notes on the reading. Make sure that you take notes on all the videos, because I do have, it's a comprehensive exam that will cover all class materials. That'll be a 2-hour exam. You'll have a time frame in which you can open it, but once you open it, you have to complete it within 2 hours. And then the final element to your grade will be your research project. I will give you some time while you're in class to make sure you can make use of the library, that you can get a bibliography. There'll be some more instructions on the research project, but you have a chance to really dig in deeply into a part of Old Testament studies that interests you. And so that's where your grade's going to come from. The reading schedule will be posted in the final syllabus. Make sure to look at that, and also I'll have it posted up every week, so make sure you're checking in. I'll see you in class. If you have questions, let me know. I look forward to serving you. It's my privilege to teach at Asbury, and I look forward to getting to know each one of you, and we're going to have a great time together this semester. So go ahead and jump in, begin the reading, check out the first couple of videos. If you have questions, post those things. Again, I'm Brian Russell, and I will see you really soon.